Good morning and namaste to all of you. Let's do some prayers first. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhavaswa, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Asto Ma Sadgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya, Om Sena Bhavatu, Sena Bhunaktu, Saviryam Karvavai, Tejasvi Navadhitamastu, Ma Vidveshavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In our Saturday class, we are trying to understand what Rishi Patanjali is telling us. What mind is, how to control the mind, and if you can control the mind, clean the mind, what really happens to us? What are the experiences? So we are on chapter 2, Sadhana Pad, verse number 52. And last time we were together in this class, talked about a special pranayama where we can really concentrate on our mind. Okay, and he called it a chaturtha. Okay, no particular name, chaturtha. And that also means that with the help of this pranayama, you can just go deeper to that fourth level, chaturtha, turyaga. So now in verse number 52, he is telling us with this very bold statement that the veil over our Atma can be removed with the help of this pranayama. So that's why it's very important to do those pranayams properly, the way we have been talking about. So, tataha kashiyate prakash avarnam. Tataha means then. That means as a result of that pranayama. Kashiyate, that means destroyed, weakens, diminished. Prakash, light, illumination, avarnam, covering, the veil. So as a result, the veil over the inner light is destroyed. And this light is the light of us, the Atma. So practice of pranayama destroys the veil that hides our intrinsic luminosity. To understand this statement, because it's a pretty strong, bold statement, it's necessary to reflect on the fundamental philosophy and the metaphysics of prana. As we looked at it last time, the inhalation and exhalation are merely the physical correlates of prana. Prana is different from the air we breathe. This prana is also called a Brahmasapandha. That means the pulsation of all-pervading, ever-present, absolute being. Brahma. It is the intrinsic intention of Ishvara. Prana is actually, they say, Ishwar's unconditional love for us. Prana. And it has only one objective: to awaken us, give us the strength, give us the vision to seek and find ultimate freedom and lasting fulfillment. It's like a tender touch of prana awakens us from our deep slumber. And the same pranic force also awakens our mind. And the instant the mind awakens, the numberless sanskars begin to pulsate. Because this avidya, as a sanskars, has enveloped us from every direction and in every manner. That's how we think that we are limited human beings with a limited power and limited knowledge. We are hidden from our mind, and our mind is hidden from us. We are hidden from inside as well as from outside. So avidya seeps into every nook and cranny of our mind and consciousness. This avidya is ignorance, the darkness, forgetfulness. So it is as alive as they are. So the power of prana, Rishi Patanjali is saying, can remove this veil of ignorance. As soon as the veil of avidya is destroyed, we gain access to all the powers and privileges inherent in our body as well as our mind. We acquire our innate wisdom. We are able to create a world of our choice in direct proportion to the thinning of the veil. Remember that. This veil cannot be lifted over instantly. You have to thin it, keep on thinning it, because thickness also happened gradually, slowly, birth after birth. So thinning will also happen slowly. To do this, we must survey the size of our personal world. According to Yog Sutras, our personal world encompasses the space occupied by our body and the space around our body spanning the width of 12 fingers. Yog Sutras says that. We are born with this much space. We exist, breathe, live, and die in this space. Our experience in pleasure and pain, satisfaction as well as frustration, hunger and thirst, sickness and health is confined to this space. It's personal space. We sit, move, sleep, dream, meditate, even attain samadhi in this space. Acquisition of this space is birth, and eviction from this space is death. So in union with Pran, we acquire this space. And with this disunion, we lose it. So the space allotted for our personal world is saturated with Pran. This space is exclusively ours. Experientially, it's ours. Our physical body with all its limbs and organs is suspended in this pranically charged space. And it's anchored by very strong pranic currents. So the same pranic currents anchor our organs in the space that appears to be inside our body. It is important to remember that the pran is the first and foremost manifestation of Ishwar's Prakriti. Pran. And that's why it's also called omnipresent. So pran is inside the space allotted to us as well as everywhere outside. But from our perspective, there's a greater concentration of Pran Shakti in the space that houses our body and the 12-finger width area surrounding it. So for our purposes, that's where it's fully concentrated, even though it's everywhere. Our intimate relationship with this pranic saturation enables us to be a self-contained, autonomous entity. We are complete and independent being. That's why we are called prani, an entity infused with prana, the possessor of prana, an entity adopted by prana. That's what this prani word means. Yogis describe Pran as the godparent of every living being in the universe. Discovery of this perennial godparent begins with understanding of our breath, the most significant and accessible physiological correlate of Pran, the breath. So the practice of pranayama, which we have been discussing, enables us to discover and embrace this deeper dimension of our breath. That's how the pranayama introduces us to our pran shakti. And that's why this chaturth pran, which we practiced and we talked about last time, I would like you to keep on practicing. Pran is subtle, so are its functions. It is everywhere inside the body and extends 12-finger widths outside the body. We can touch and feel its movement only in the parts of the body where its flow is significantly strong. That's why I told you to just bring your attention towards the nostril. Move your attention inward towards the top of your mouth or the nose, the eye centers, in the middle of the eyebrows. So it's a movement only in the parts of the body where it flows significantly strong and the organs are highly saturated with its intelligence. Right above our neck, all our sense organs are there. The most prominent of these are located in the space between the threshold of the nostrils and the center of the forehead. Because otherwise, you are inhaling air, but body is inhaling, exhaling, but I want you to bring your mind towards these special parts. You can feel the strong sensation of energy like movement from the threshold of the nostrils all the way to the forehead. We are able to experience this sensation because this region is highly saturated with pranic intelligence. And because the flow of the pran here is significantly stronger. This is one of the few regions in our body where we can clearly observe the distinction between the movement of air and the movement of pran shakti. And by manipulating the flow of our inhalation and exhalation, we can calm our nervous system, free our mind from neurological and physiological distractions to a great extent. With practice, we can then put our inhalation and exhalation on autopilot. And then we can employ our mind exclusively in observing the continuous movement of pran. in this region. So it is in this space that we touch and feel the movement of prana. It is in this space that our mind embraces the pranic waves. And that's how this prana, when we fall in love with this, the mind becomes concentrated there. Because whatever we love, that's where the mind goes. So with this practice, we are in love with this. As practice continues, the space in front of the face becomes more vibrant, causing the mind to become increasingly concentrated. Because mind is drawing so much joy over there, this mind doesn't want to go anywhere else. The high degree of brilliance engendered by pranayama gives the mind the vision to see what once was beyond the comprehension. It is charged with the power to see numberless layers of the veil of ignorance, the avidya. It is also charged with the power of discernment to distinguish complex and afflicting karmic impressions from those that are simpler and less afflicting. So right in front of you. The mind now has the courage to focus on the present and let go of the past. Doesn't want to hold on to that, which is useless. It's a burden. United with this valiant force of prana, it has the capacity to focus on anything it chooses. And that is the subject of the next course. Okay, so in sure, this looks like a very simple verse, but a depth of knowledge in this verse. Because our whole life is designed by the avidya, the ignorance. And with the help of this pranayama, we can thin this veil. And why wouldn't we? Then he says another benefit of this pranayama. Dharanasu cha yogeta manasah. This is verse number 53. Dharanasu. That means for concentration. Cha means and. Yogyata. Qualification. Or becomes fit. Manasah. Of mind. The mind is also qualified for concentration with the help of the pranayama. So there are two benefits of pranayama, he's telling us. Because throughout, he has been telling us, if you are firmly established in something, what are the benefits? So with pranayama, the veil of the ignorance can be removed, and then you're fit to concentrate also. Because as we all know, yoga is defined as arresting and eventually transcending the mind's roaming tendencies. So to achieve this objective, we are advised to concentrate on a singular object. But most of us have a mind that is disturbed and scattered. So trying to concentrate on a singular object with a disturbed, distracted mind is pretty absurd. It's as absurd as trying to sit on your own shoulders. So we must first build the capacity to concentrate. So this capacity comes from the practice of pranayama. So that's why pranayama is considered the soul of yoga. We know that all breathing exercises awaken our dormant vigor and vitality by churning our nervous system, our internal organs, or even the external limbs also. The nadis become unblocked. Pran flows smoothly. So that's why there are several different pranayams we do. But in a Chaturth pranayam, we saw that we can reach this tranquil state of pranic activity effortlessly and relatively quickly. So that's why in your Hatha Yoga practice, sure, do those pranayams, Nadi Shodhan pranayam and other pranayam, Bhasrika pranayams, other pranayams also, whatever your body permits you. But for meditation purposes, do this Chaturth pranayam. The nostrils, the center of the forehead, infuse the mind with the capacity to concentrate this region. Because as your practice matures, the mind will be capable of concentrating at the center of this region. Center, which is called Agya Chakra. So that's where you're going. So in other words, the simple version of Chaturth Pranayam helps the mind build its capacity to concentrate at the Agya Chakra. This helps the mind build its capacity to concentrate on any spot actually, because you will have a hold of your mind. But eventually you will see that it will find the joy in that Agya Chakra. We got to learn how to charge this mind, where we can focus at any spot. Mind is an instrument given to us to use. So that's why with the help of this pranayam, you just have more and more capability to focus wherever you want to. And the power of concentration by this pranayam enables us to attain mastery over our senses also. Otherwise, these senses of ours, they continually throw the mind into the state of disturbance, distraction. And that is the subject of the next sutra, where he says, Sutra number 54, svasvavishayasanprayoge chittasy svaroopanukar ivendriyanan pratyaharah. So this is the next limb. After pranayam comes pratyahara. So swa means one's own. Vishya means object. Asamprayoge, lack of contact, lack of union, or disunion. Chittasy, of mind. Svaroopa, essential nature, one's own form. Anukara, appearance. Iv means like. Indriyanam, of the senses. Pratyahara, withdrawing from every direction toward a focal point. That is a pratyahara. So that means withdrawing from every direction. Pratyahara. So going back to the other limbs, it started out with the yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, now pratyahara. These are the limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. So he says, lacking contact with their respective objects, when senses assume the nature of mind, it is pratyahara. So the senses, when they don't run into the outer world, they just are fully contracted and movement is inward. So pranayama leads to pratyahara. A very simple translation could be sense withdrawal. But this is only a partially correct. So that's why Rishi Patanjali is saying that pratyahara involves withdrawing the mind also. Pratyahara is composed of prati, a, and har, like a harna. So with the grammatical rules of Sanskrit, the last word comes first. Har means to pull, to withdraw, to bring. A means from every direction, in every respect, and prati means toward. So that's why pratyahara means pulling the mind from every direction, in every respect, to a focal point. That is pratyahara. And withdrawing the mind is a purposeful and methodical process. And the focusing of mind on a given object is even more purposeful and methodical. So we need to understand the relationship between the mind and the senses first, because they work in unison. As we all know, the mind cannot perceive an object unless it is presented to it by the senses, unless they are accomplished by the mind. The senses cannot sense an object. And whatever senses, nostrils, tongue, eyes, skin, ears, they are able to smell, taste, see, touch, hear, only in the presence of the mind. These organs are connected to our cortex, the physical seat of the non-physical mind. The cognitive power flowing from the cortex to these organs infuses them with the capacity to sense the objective world. That's how these senses are working. So organs themselves are not senses, but the power residing in them is the senses. That's why the dead body has the organs. Eyes are there, nose is there, ears are there. But the power is not there. So the power residing in them is the senses, and that power is the mind. So the mind needs the sense organs. This is the relationship. Without them, it cannot comprehend the subtle details of its cognition. So this is a very unique design of the sense organs, which enable the mind to comprehend these subtle details in 5 broad categories. And that's how mind is just drawing numberless impressions. And our mind fabricates the rest of the details. Unless the senses have laid the groundwork, the mind will not succeed in experiencing the world to its full satisfaction. This is like a relationship between the sense organs and the mind. And every sensory pursuit takes a toll on our body, mind, and senses. The mind, which works under the influence of desires, cravings, habits, it justifies its sensory pursuits. So that's why Rishi Patanjali is saying that we got to practice pratyahara. Otherwise, constantly senses are taking our attention outside and bringing more and more impressions into the mind. It's almost like if all the windows and the doors are open and there's a dust storm. Dust keeps on coming. It can never be cleansed. So Rishi Patanjali says, practice pratyahara. Pratyahara is a two-part practice. Withdraw the mind from all sensory engagements and then focus it on an object that transcends the ordinary realm of the senses. So two parts. Because it's not just only withdrawing the mind, but then telling the mind where to go to. How do we do it? It's just like yam and the niyams, pranayama, asanas. We got to practice. Pratyahara needs some practice too. We can begin by sitting in a meditative pose. Withdraw your mind from the external world. Resolve to be aware only of your body and the space it occupies. So your body and just a space outside. Space not too far, only 12 finger width. Simply pay attention to your body. You'll be able to withdraw your mind from all places and all concerns you will see. While paying attention to your body, do not mentally outline it or survey your individual limbs or organs. It's almost like a round circle around you. Or draw a circle around you mentally. Simply become aware of your existence. The greater your awareness of the space related to your physical existence, weaker your awareness will be of everything else. Why? Because the mind, which uses the senses to travel in the objective world, has returned to its workplace. Your nostrils, tongue, eyes, skin, ears. They have come back to the home space. Mind's journey from the objective world to the cortex constitutes only half of the practice of pratyahara. That's why I was saying the two-part. So you're sitting down, drawing a big circle around you, bringing your mind, keeping it only in that circle. So the remaining half is accomplished by leading the mind to a state where it assumes svaroopanukar, its essential nature. Awareness of its intrinsic luminosity is the mind's nature. Subtle impressions and the roaming tendencies, they just block this intrinsic luminosity. So it is luminous. Man is a devata. But we just let the mind flutter everywhere and it loses its devic power. Once the mind is disconnected from sensory objects, it has an opportunity to pay attention to its intrinsic nature. And the process of attending to and becoming absorbed in its pure nature is the final step of pratyahara. Okay, so this needs to be practiced. And this final step, the second step, methodically we need to practice it. It's not just simply resolving not to be aware of the objects of the senses. There are certain parts in our body God has given us. We can bring our mind over there. Because once we are inside, then you got to give your mind a certain part. These are called maram sathan. There are several maram sathans in our body, where the pranic field is concentrated. Ayurveda says there are 107 maram sathans. Or in some texts, they say 108. But the yogic scriptures, they say there are only 28. And in order to practice, all we need to do is practice in the upper part, above the neck. Nostrils, the inner corner of our eyes, the center between the eyebrows, the forehead, the crown of the head, the heart, the navel area. Okay, so these are the maram sathana. If we can just bring our mind there, mind feels joyful, which is mind's intrinsic nature. So the practice of this final step of pratyahara really begins with the Chaturth Pranayama, if you look at it, which we talked about last time. When you have become fully aware of your body and the space occupied by it, pay attention to your breath. Inhale and exhale gently and smoothly without noise or jerks. As you go deeper into the practice of this Chaturth Pranayama, a pranically charged space emerges in front of your face. And this space is filled with profound joy, as well as tranquility. As you allow your mind to accompany the pranic movement in this field, you will see that your breath becomes further refined. And this refinement is characterized by two factors. The number of breaths per minute drops, and the mind's roaming tendencies subside dramatically. So, for example, if the normal course of life, you are accustomed to taking 15 breaths per minute, at the peak of a Chaturth Pranayama, you may be taking only 8 breaths per minute. In the same way, if you could concentrate on an object for a minute, now you're able to concentrate for 2 minutes or more. So breathing slows down, concentration increases. Your mind is able to stay stable on an object for longer. Why? Because the senses are no longer in contact with their respective objects. And they are absorbed in the cortical brain. That's where the senses go. There's no awareness of the smell, taste, sight, touch, or sound. The mind is so absorbed in the self, or it is so absorbed in that pranic field. It has become totally aware of its own luminosity, which is called Jyotishmati. This awareness is intrinsically accompanied by pure joy. We shock. No sorrowness, only joy. So this luminosity has destroyed the darkness of ignorance. Joy has quelled all our cravings, and the mind has reclaimed its innate vibrance as well as joy. Then what is the difference between Chaturth Pranayama and Pratyahara then? Because if it does the same thing, so only technically it's different, but experientially the Chaturth Pranayama helps you to get into the advanced layers of Pratyahara. So they are connected actually. So they help each other. So keep on practicing the Pratyahara also, and keep on practicing the Chaturth Pranayama. Both are needed. And that's how this Pratyahara will take us towards the Dharana, and Dharana will take us towards Dhyan, and eventually Dhyan will take us towards Samadhi. So last verse of this chapter, verse number 55. Let's just read the literal meaning and then we'll talk about it next week. Tataha parmaha vashyatah indriyanam. Tata means from that. Parma, the highest. Vashyata, mastery. Indriyanam, senses. From that means from Pratyahara, comes the highest level of mastery over the senses. Because otherwise, sometimes we think that our senses are in control. But the minute some object comes in front of us, we lose control. So Rishi Patanjali is telling us you got to have a highest level of control. Not just a little bit of control. And Pratyahara, practice of Pratyahara can take us to that. And we'll look at it in detail next week. So from Pratyahara comes the highest level of mastery over the senses. Just look at it. How methodically he is taking us towards the higher stages of yoga. These days, people want to just, first class they come into, they just want to meditate. But if they see somebody reaching that samadhi state, they wonder how come we didn't get that. There are several steps, lot of practice. And we got to do our part. Practice, practice, and more practice. Okay, so let's stop it here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.